Hi, my name is Javier. My mom's name is Alice, and 33 years ago she worked in a small village in El Salvador called Teosinte. She was helping them move back to their homeland after being pushed out by the military. We're still in touch with the people there. They're our friends and they need our help. Only half the town of 500 have access to water, and the water comes from the river, which is dirty from a neighboring farm runoff. People, especially kids, are getting sick. It's the end of the dry season and the water is extra sparse, so our timing is critical. We're trying to raise $7,500 to pay for the pipes needed to build a new water system that would connect the whole village to the central filtered water source. The local community is raising the remaining $645 and will provide all of the labor needed to install the water system. The people of Teosinte have been on their land for many years. They have fought for their lives there. Click here to meet my mom, hear her story, and meet our friends from Teosinte. Please donate what you can to help us help them get water. Everyone deserves that.
From 1987 to 1993, I was living in this little town called Teosinte, El Salvador. And Teosinte is located up in the northern hills of Chalatenango, in an area that had experienced a lot of the war and also were people that did a lot of community organizing. I went to El Salvador because I wanted to live and work with people and learn about what they were doing to resist the war. So I accompanied a repatriated community. They came back from the refugee camps and came back to their original village, and you couldn't even recognize it. It was completely bombed out. So the community started to get organized right away, and they started to rebuild their houses. They started with just plastic houses while they were building the longer permanent housing. And because it was the rainy season, they were quickly trying to get the bean field in before the end of the rainy season. So all that was going on, and then the dry season came. And then the dry season became very critical because there was no access to drinking water. When we got to Teosinte, you drive in, and we walked in, and you see these public spigots of water, not to the houses, but to a housing sector. And although there was one in the entrance, there was a big one right by the church, and there was one in Sector 4 housing, none of it had water falling from it. And so what happened in that time was, at that point, everyone was drinking from the river in the cleanest area that they could find, or this little creek during the rainy season that went alongside the school. But once the dry season came, that became very scarce, and the problem with getting any water from the river, even if it was boiled, was that it had a lot of runoff from the farmlands nearby. What the community needed to do right away was they immediately looked to try to rebuild an old water system. And so they raised money from the Red Cross, and the actual source of the water and the tank of the water was 5 kilometers straight up the mountain. So I remember in front of the church all these big piles of glistening pipes that were about 30 pounds each and very long, and everyone decided they were all going to take trips up the mountain and try to rebuild that water system. And the men and women of the town would take like 6 or even 8, a bundle of them with like a towel underneath them, and walk up this windy, up the mountain to start leaving the pipes there. But I was kind of a useless gringa at the time, and so I did what I always did, was I did the children's job, but I had to share it with them because I couldn't carry that many. So I had a child who was like 6 or 8 years old with me carrying just a couple of those pipes, and I wouldn't make several trips up that mountain. Well, one day, while a number of people were bringing the pipes up the mountain, the military came, and the military was trying to get them out of their homeland from the get-go, and they were the ones who pushed them out to begin with. So they came with what they call the WASP helicopter, and they came down onto the tops of the trees where people were carrying the pipes, and they started to fire down on the people carrying the water pipes up to the water source. And I remember Mauro going up to a tree and trying to hug along, talking about how to kind of like crouched alongside the tree so he wouldn't get hit by those bullets. So the community, being the amazing community that they were and are, did what they usually did, which is they called a community assembly. And at that community assembly, they said, we have two choices here. All the families are there in the church, and they're up at the front by the table that tripled as an altar, as a table for the kindergarten classes in there, and where the community council would meet. And the two health promoters from the community, Benjamin and Rafael. Benjamin was on the community council, and Rafael was also trained in Mesa Grande, Honduras, in the refugee camps to how to take care of the health of the community. And they proposed the following to the community. They said to everybody gathered there, this is what happened. We got fired on, and we run the risk of getting fired on by the Army if we continue to carry these pipes up the hill, and that's a risk, or we don't carry the pipes up the hill, and then we run the risk of the kids dying. So the whole community immediately started yelling out, we continue this project, we continue this project, we don't want our kids to die. So the community moved on, and they continued to run that risk and build the pipes up to, and then finally connected just to a central area. And as I'm in that assembly, I'm remember thinking, how many faucets were in the house that I grew up in that I didn't even lift a finger for? And here this whole community is carrying tubes up 5 kilometers and risking their lives for that. And thanks to their faith and their hard work, the community came to that central water spot. And the first day we opened up the pipes and it sputtered out, and the whole community celebrated, and we had a big dance and celebration. And one of the things the kids did, especially over these celebration times, is they drew pictures. And there was a picture I really wish I still had, which Cesar drew. And it was a picture of Cesar on half the page with a big gourd of water pouring down on his head with a big smile, and he took up most of the page. And then there were other kids on the side playing and splashing in the water. And then way up in the corner there's this small helicopter with the Army like frowning and with their guns pointing down, but it was like so small and insignificant compared to the rest of his drawing, and it just said it all. So now after 33 years, that same water system had the source dried up. The community diverted water into another system, and that system has deteriorated. So what's happening is they're drawing water from the river again, and it's not being filtered to the community. And now they're at the end of the dry season, so it's really urgent. Very little water is falling in the community. It's only falling into 2 of the housing sectors, 2 of the 4 housing sectors. And the water that's coming out may only come at night, and it's still filled with parasites, so the water isn't fit for human consumption. So we really need your help right now. I'm really grateful that you listened to all this, and if we can just raise $7,500, we can get the rest of the pipes and all the pieces and a filtration. They want to do a filtration system. Rafael, that same health promoter from 33 years ago, continues to work, is recognized now by the Ministry of Education, and he has a filtration system he wants to put up at the beginning of the water source so that the community will get water and will get clean drinking water, so none of the kids will get sick.
Bueno, mi nombre es Rafael Guardado, soy promotor de salud de la comunidad de Teosinte. En el verano tenemos complicaciones con el agua debido a que hay crisis de agua. No es una fuente de agua, es una quebrada, es agua contaminada. Entonces, por eso es tan necesario de que nosotros, acá donde se juntan esas aguas, necesitamos darle un tratamiento para que la gente pueda recibir agua, pero que pueda recibir un agua apta para consumo humano y poder así prevenir enfermedades y poder resolver el agua de la comunidad. O sea, el agua debería de estar tratada, pero no tenemos así un sistema que nos permita darle tratamiento. Entonces, con este proyecto nosotros podríamos encajar toda la fuente de agua a un solo lugar, darle un tratamiento de tal manera que la comunidad va a recibir agua y agua tratada.
So really appreciate your help in considering and helping. Anything you can give will mean a lot. Thank you.